direction I see horror and horror series going to. I mean, say what you want about the Saw movies. They're not the greatest horror films, but you have to admit, it is a solid series of movies that came out. Unfortunately for this next generation, the closest they're going to get to a Friday the 13th, and the less said about the Paranormal Activity movies, the better. They're not horrible films. They're actually very entertaining. They're kind of disposable, though. It's very easy to get lost in them, because after maybe part 4, that's when they just all seem to run together. They're beating a dead horse to keep continuing the series that has, frankly, run out of air. The first film, you know, was supposed to go to home video, and it got such a positive reaction at a test screening, they decided to release it theatrically. And I mean, look at how big that movie became. They decided to, hey, let's make a sequel. And then after that one made even more money, they decided, hey, let's start doing this every Halloween, because at the time, horror movies were coming out, but none of them were either serialized or they were just really easily put in a category and just gave you what you need. That's the thing with the Saw films. They're very actually inventive plot-wise. One of the things I liked is that they're all connected, so that even if you didn't see one of them, it's not hard to come back in. And if you have seen it from the beginning, it's actually kind of interesting, you know, how they keep the story going up until part 4. The screenwriters of starting at part 4, Marcus Dunstan and Patrick Melton or Felton, they actually came up with their own series, well, so far only 2, called The Collector and The Collection. And I have to say, surprisingly, those films, I mean, they're not reinventing the wheel, but they're actually very entertaining. They pretty much give you what you want. The first one's a little more rough. It's more torture pornish. I'm not really in the camp where I'm like, ooh, I can't wait to see some more torture porn. I expect scares. I expect inventiveness. Keep me entertained with what you're giving me. And with, you know, The Collector and The Collection, again, not the greatest. I'm not gonna put them on my top 10 horror films of all time, but at least it's nice to see somebody out there making something in the horror genre and at least trying to create maybe a new cinematic boogeyman, because let's face it, we haven't had any for a while. Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I mean, I'm all for if you're going to try and reinvent it, but do something different. It's nothing but, it could have been any horror film and you put X boogeyman in it and it wouldn't have made a difference. There's nothing special about it except that he happens to use a chainsaw. You can call it a reimagining. I'm calling it rewriting history. The same goes with the Halloween movies. I mean, Halloween, one of the greatest horror films of all time. I understand studios want to make money, so they're like, hey, since it made so much money and everybody loves it, why don't we try and introduce a new generation to it? No offense to Rob Zombie, I like The Devil's Rejects, but I'm not a fan of it. I mean, it doesn't even come close to the original. You have Halloween 2, where he tries a different take, where it's not so much a supernatural killer. He tries to make the killings more realistic. It seems like almost like a prison shanking when he takes his victim, because it's like, and they're still crying like, no! That's different, but still not good enough. Look at the Friday the 13th remake. Rather not look at the Friday the 13th remake. The only thing that was good in that, it had really good nudity. You know, you're sitting there explaining things to an audience, that takes all the mystery out of it. I mean, come on. Jason has been hiding underground and set up an elaborate bell system all these years? He's kidnapping this girl because he wants to start a family with her and take the place of his mother. He wants companionship. Where is the Huey Lewis in the News song, doing it all for my baby? What is happening to horrors? When did our horror people become so emo? You have all these now found footage horror films, which if done correctly, can be very impressive. But unfortunately, you have one guy, or maybe a few guys who do it really impressively, then you have 20 others jump on that bandwagon, just like with any trend. And, you know, they do it and think, okay, I'll just do it this way. and that's good enough. No, you're missing plotting, story, characterization. Why are these cameras filming if it's found footage? They don't answer any of those questions. I understand you want a family rating, you want teenagers to go see because they're your primary audience, so you rate a film PG-13. But don't act like, you know, you're Roman Polanski with Rosemary's Baby because you have invented this. I'm not going to show the violence. I'm going to imply and scare the audience because whatever is happening in their mind is probably worse than ever I could film. That's a great idea. But you know what you guys have lacked in that? Build up. You don't give any build up. You just throw. It's like you're throwing paint at the walls and seeing what sticks. And then this whole other thing of momentum that you throw off. Okay, we get it. The cat jumping out. Oh, now I'm relieved. Then comes the killer. Here's a hint. I'm going to give you a cinematic tip. I'm not a director, but I've watched a lot of movies. You have the cat jump out. You know, everybody's like, oh my God, oh my God. You know, the audience calms down. Then you give them another beat, and guess what? Nothing happens. So then you go, yeah, we're thinking it's normal. And then just out of nowhere, some fucking violence out of nowhere. Unexplained. The whole thing to great horror sometimes is beating everybody to the punch and taking them out of their comfort zone and putting in something they didn't see coming, but it has to make some kind of sense. Understand, when I say it has to make some kind of sense, you don't have to explain it till it's a dead horse. Just makes sense. So that goes with story and characterization. I think I've ranted long enough for this particular episode, but it's good to be back and talk to you. I might have gone a little haywire. I might have gotten a little animated. But you know, horror is one of my favorite genre of films to watch. I'm not a psychopath. I just like it because A, you don't have to worry about star power. It always helps, but you don't have to worry about it. And anything can happen. Anything is disposable. And I feel like with horror, when you watch a psychological thriller, it's all about thoughts and what could happen. With horror, it's a manifestation of what's the worst that could happen. I mean, we all say, oh man, if I was him, I wouldn't do that. But you never know. You're not thinking rationally when you're scared and stressed. I just like that factor with horror films. Anything can happen. There are rules, but those rules are made to be broken every day. I don't like the Paranormal Activity movies because I don't feel like watching a 90-minute movie only for 2 trick scares to happen. I find that a cheap parlor trick, you know. I'm glad for the filmmakers who made it. I'm glad they got careers and I'm glad for their success. But I feel like it's a slap in the face because I feel like you tricked me. And not only have you tricked me once, you tricked me 4 times, even though I didn't go to see it in theaters once. But still, you get the gist of what I'm saying. And that will end our business for this week, even though I'm still highly animated. But keep in mind, we always have unfinished business. But before I go, yeah, I'm doing the weird Axl Rose dance. Have you seen Scott Pilgrim? If not, why not? Because it's awesome. And with that, I bid you all adieu.